for me. Then that so-called prophet told me that this problem he had seen in the vision, that I had tried praying about it, but prayers could not solve the problem, because this problem that I was facing, it was a curse that had been done by another African herbalist using very powerful herbs. So no matter how hard I would try to pray, those herbs that had been used by that powerful herbalist were the ones that were blocking the prayers from reaching heaven. I was then given a ring, and I was told that no ritual will ever be required from you. All your sacrifices, you have performed them. By you being poor, you have done your sacrifices, and God has felt sorry for you, and today is your salvation day. I was really happy when I was given that ring, which didn't require any sacrifice at all. And my brother, after all those rituals were performed, and after I had been given that ring, we returned back to the city. And I can say that for 7 years, I enjoyed life until that man who I had met whilst he was stuck by the side of the road had died. But still life continued, and I was still enjoying my life. But what happened, my brother, is that on the last day of the 7th month in that same year, like the 7th year, after 7 years had passed, I then found myself that I was really sick, unable to get out of bed. I didn't know who to contact, because the only man who knew all of those rituals that I had performed, he had since died, and he was now like my brother, my father. He was like my relatives, because the rituals that I had done, I could not tell anyone. I could not even assist my relatives. That is the thing that I was told. I was never supposed to assist any of my relatives. On that day when I woke up, and when I felt that I could not even move my body, I could not even get out of bed, I said, so God, this is it. Today I am going to die. If I am going to die, please God, forgive me for all the sins that I have committed against you. I do not want to go to hell. Whilst I was praying, that was when I heard that there was a loud knock at the door. I said, who is it now? Because where I was staying, my brother, at that time, before I had sold that house, I had good security. There was no one who could come banging on my door. I got so angry because I thought that maybe the gate man, he had been sleeping on the job. I could not even get out of bed, and that banging sound kept on happening. I said, who is it? And immediately after I had spoken, I then saw that it was that same so-called prophet, that old one. He entered into my room and he said, why are you praying? When you came to me, didn't I tell you that prayer will never assist you? If you knew that prayer was going to assist you, why did you come to my shrine in the first place? He told me that I had to do a sacrifice in that same month. Otherwise, if I do not do that sacrifice, then I was going to die. I then said that, why are you saying that I have to perform a sacrifice? Because I still remember that on that day when I came to your shrine, you told me that there was no sacrifice that would ever be required from me. And he said that things change. Even the spirit, they do change their ways. All that you have to do right now is to listen to the gods, otherwise they are going to strike you down in their anger. So my brother, left with no choice, I had to follow all of the sacrifices that were going to be required from me. That priest then told me that I had to sacrifice my own mom, and after sacrificing her, we had to take her heart. And this heart, there was an altar that was going to be built. This altar was going to be there in my house. I had to choose any room that I would want. I then said, how are we going to harvest a body parts? He said that everything that was going to be done, it was going to be done in a spiritual way, and no one will ever know that I was the one who would have sacrificed my own mother. I said, it is fine. And he said that you have to do it quickly before the month end. And I said, can we do it today? And he then said that it is fine, but for you to do it today, I don't think that you will be able to do it, because I have to give you some herbs, and I have left some herbs because I could not carry them problem in the spirits, because some of the gods that I met along the way, they took my herbs away. So I have to travel back and I have to come here so that I can physically give you those charms. He then disappeared and he returned back to his shrine. When he came back, it was him with some of his assistants. Then they started giving me those herbs. I was really feeling fatigued, my brother, because for 2 days I could not even wake up. I was really tired. After he had given me that herbs that were mixed together to drink, and I started to feel better, he told me that I didn't have any time. Before sunset, I had to go and give my mom, who was still back in the village, a present. And by me giving her that present, it meant that I was buying off her life and I was going to use a soul for my rituals. That was fair enough, my brother. I then went into the city and I bought some clothes that I wanted to give to my mom. After I had bought those clothes, and I then returned to the village, and I went and I gave my mom the dress that I had bought for her. She was really happy because for 7 good years she had not set her eyes upon her son. When she saw me driving into the compound, she was really excited and she was really happy, and she thought that maybe God had answered her own prayers, because she kept on saying that each and every day, my son, I had been asking God, where have I gone wrong? I kept on crying to God, but now I know that there is a God in heaven who has answered all of my prayers. And when she said that God had answered all of her prayers, I felt so guilty, because the reason why I had driven all the way going to the village, it was not because I loved my mom so much, but it was because I wanted to sacrifice her own life so that I won't die. My brother, I then followed the instruction that the prophet had given me. I gave my mom that dress and all the charms that I had in my car. I then placed them, when my mom was fast asleep, I just placed them in her bedroom, and she didn't even wake up when I was busy placing them underneath her bed and some of them at the corners of her bedroom. After that, I then drove throughout the night whilst I was returning back to the city. When I arrived in the city, I then saw some messages that was being sent by the villagers. They were telling me that my mom, she was really sick, and they wanted to admit her to they wanted to take her to the hospital. They told me the hospital where she was going to be admitted at, and I just said, thank you, I'll come there. But for several days, I was still waiting for the instruction of that prophet, because he said that do not do anything before you consult me. I waited for his instruction, and on the day that he came back to my house physically, he came with more charms that I was supposed to use. He gave me the charms and he told me that I had to buy some food that my mother had to eat. I went into town and I bought some fruits. He took those fruits and he made some herbal mix, and he started dipping those fruits into that water that contained the herbs that he had mixed around, and he said, fine, now you can go to the hospital. He was actually following the car that I was driving behind until we had reached the hospital. He said, it is fine, my child, I am turning around now, but as for you, you can now go inside and harvest your soul so that you can be delivered. Your salvation is today. I went inside, my brother, and I followed all of those instructions, and on the side I had bought my mother a flower as well as a chocolate bar and those fruits that had been placed inside the water that the prophet had mixed with a lot of herbs. And when my mom was eating the fruits, I knew that I had traded my mom's life for my own, and I was really happy because I was not yet ready to die because of the money that I was making. After that, I then informed that prophet. I told him that I had done everything that he had asked me to do. He said, you can now go back to your house so that you can rest nothing bad is going to happen to you. I returned back to my place, my brother. He then later called me in the evening and he said that your mom has passed away. And after that, when I drove back to the hospital, I found this other doctor whom I had seen in the afternoon, so he knew that my mom was admitted there. He then said that the hospital was supposed to call me, but they didn't want to call me. They just wanted me to come for the visitation because they had some sad news for me, so they didn't want to give me the news over the phone. The doctor then told me that my mom had passed away, but I was not even sad, even though I pretended like I was crying. And he said that this is the reason why we were afraid to tell you, because we knew that you love your mom so much and you loved her so much. But now what you need to do is you have to cherish your memories. He was trying to give me a little bit of counseling, but what he didn't know is that this was just a ritual that I was performing. I had traded my mom's life with my own. So I then returned back, and that prophet, he told me that I had to switch off my phone because there was one more ritual. This was the last ritual that I had to perform, and this ritual, it will be me taking my mom's heart. We then returned back to that prophet's house, and when we returned, I saw that his assistants, they had already gathered all the items that were going to be required for the ritual. There was a coffin that was placed in front of his altar, and inside that coffin there was an old woman, and that old woman was that prophet's relative. She was just playing the part, pretending as if she was my own mother. And as she was lying in that coffin, I had to press on her chest, squeezing her chest and squeezing her breast as if I was pulling her heart out of her chest. And that is what I did. After I had done this for several minutes, then that prophet told me that my mom's heart, it was now inside my hands. He said, "Can you feel anything?" I said, "No, I do not feel anything." He then slapped me just a little bit on my back and he said, "What do you feel now?" And I told him that I felt that my hands, they were suddenly heavy, and it seemed as if inside my hands there was an invisible heart that was pumping blood. And he said, "You see, even though you cannot see it spiritually, but I am glad that you can feel it, so that you can see that everything that we are about to do, your salvation is arrived." I felt my mom's heart as it was beating whilst I was holding it, even though I could not see it. He said, "I want you to turn around and do not even look at the coffin again." So when I turned around so that I can walk out of his house, he then said, "This one, he is going to turn around." He instructed one of his assistants, so they took a cloth and they covered my eyes so that I could not look back. Then they started guiding me towards the car, and they drove me back to my place, where we finished off the rest of the ritual. The way that we finished off the rest of the ritual, we just bought, when your relative is passed away, there are some people who have that culture whereby they cremate. We went to this other mortuary and we purchased a very small coffin, and that is the coffin that we used for that ritual. We did the same thing, and I actually placed that invisible heart that I could feel inside my hands. And after I had placed it inside that small coffin, I could actually feel that there was nothing anymore in my hands like I was feeling before. I then locked that small coffin. That prophet then said that you can place it wherever you want. Just make sure that no one else except for you will touch it. And he gave me advice on that day, and he said that, "You remember your friend, that man that I met who took me to that prophet, he was not a married man, even though he had several children with several women." He said that that is the kind of a lifestyle that I was supposed to live. Otherwise, if I got married, then my wife will one day try to find out what is inside that coffin. And when that coffin would be opened, then it will mean that it will be sudden death for me, because my mom's heart is the thing that will be keeping me alive as long as I follow the rules of his shrine. I then saw that this was good advice, and I have never gotten married since that time that we performed that ritual. Then another thing, my brother, is that when my mom was buried, to everyone's surprise, because everyone in our village was quite surprised, because they knew that I was really wealthy now, but I could not attend my mom's funeral. That prophet told me that I had to keep on rubbing and squeezing my hands together. So I was not like violently rubbing my hands against each other. I was just doing it softly, but I was not supposed to stop doing it until my mom's body was 6 feet underground. He said that until your mom's body is no longer present in this world, you have to keep on rubbing your hands together. And when he returned back to his place, he left 2 of his assistants that were supposed to keep an eye on me and that were supposed to cook for me, to feed me. And when I wanted to go to the toilet, they were supposed to assist me. They gave me some charms which kept me awake, my brother. When a man does not sleep for several days, you start to act as if you are losing your mind. I don't know what happens to the human brain if you spend like 3 days without sleeping. As for me, I spent 4 days without sleeping because my mom's body was lying in the mortuary for 4 days. Because when my mom's relatives and some villagers found out that my phone was no longer working after my mom had passed away, that prophet had said that switch your phone off. I do not want anyone to be able to get in touch with you, because you are not supposed to be there by the time that she is going to be buried. Because how could I have gone to a funeral and attend a funeral when I'll be rubbing my hands against each other like that? So I had to keep myself locked up in my house, and that is what I did for 4 days. They tried to reach out to me, and when they saw that they didn't have enough money to keep my mom's body locked up in the mortuary any longer, that was when they said, we do not have a choice, let us just bury her. So my mom was buried when I was not present, and I kept on rubbing my hands until they buried her 6 feet underground, and that was when I rested, my brother. Since that year, I can say that the life that I am living, it is a life, of course, of a ritualist. Some things that I do, some things that I meet, they are not your everyday things that a normal person can come across. But I have gotten used to everything that I come across, and I have managed to have children with several women that I have met. And all of the women that I have met, unfortunately, they think that by the time that I'll be telling them that I want us to have a child, they will think that maybe I want to get married to them. But it is only that I want an offspring. I want someone whom one day I'll be able to give all of these materials that I went and I was given by that prophet. Yo, dear listeners, right there was a very long message that was sent to us, and another message that was forwarded to me by one of our admin. Our brother was saying, yes, I feel guilty. It is not an easy thing to live in a house whereby you know that your mom's heart is locked up inside a coffin.